Okay, so ready to dive into this book. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a classic, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's practically a manual for like building relationships that last.
That's what I thought when I saw it. And the thing is, he doesn't waste any time. Like, boom, 6 fundamental techniques right off the bat. And he really wants you to get them. Like, he keeps coming back to them over and over.
It's true. Yeah.
And the one that, I don't know, it really stood out to me was that whole genuine interest thing.
Right.
Not just like pretending to care, but actually truly being interested in the people you're talking to.
It makes a huge difference. I mean, it changes how you listen, the questions you ask. It's like everything shifts.
Yeah, I get that, but how do you actually do that? Like flip that switch in your brain. Not every conversation is going to be, totally captivating.
It's about making that mental shift from me to them, like try to find anything that genuinely intrigues you about the other person. Maybe it's their work, their hobbies, even just a tiny detail they mentioned. Like, what can you actually learn from them?
I like that. Everyone's got a story, right?
Exactly. And when you go into conversations with that curiosity, that genuine desire to connect, you'd be amazed by what you find.
I bet. And of course, a genuine smile goes a long way too, right? Like just picturing someone giving me one of those warm, welcoming smiles makes you feel good,
Totally. It's like an instant connection.
And, he also talks about remembering names, which I gotta say, I'm still working on that one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Those little details that make people feel seen, though.
Yeah, totally. And then there's the whole being a good listener thing.
Huge. Not just nodding along, but really absorbing what the other person's saying, asking those clarifying questions, making them feel like their words matter.
Not just waiting for your turn to talk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's that quote, most people don't listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply.
Oh, that's so true.
I feel personally attacked.
When someone feels truly heard, like really heard, that's when you break down those walls and build a real connection.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, before we jump ahead, there are 2 more of those core principles in this section. Talking in terms of the other person's interests and making them feel important sounds great on paper, but how do you actually put those into practice?
Okay, so let's say you're at a networking event.
Okay, yeah.
And instead of launching into your whole elevator pitch, how about asking the other person about their work, their passions? Find something they're interested in and let them talk.
So much better than me rambling about this podcast,
Yeah,
right?
Totally. And that's the thing about these 6 principles. They're the foundation for everything else Carnegie talks about. It's all about building that genuine rapport, showing that you value the other person and, their perspective.
Yeah, those 6, those are big ones. You could probably write a whole book on just those, honestly.
But they're so foundational.
Okay, so part 2. This is where he kind of digs a little deeper into those first 6 and then throws in some new stuff.
Yeah.
Like compliments, right? Everybody loves a good compliment.
Who doesn't?
And Carnegie talks about the power of praise, but he's big on making sure it's genuine, which I think is key. What's the secret there? How do you walk that line between a real compliment and just, laying it on too thick?
I think it comes down to authenticity.
Yeah.
People can tell when you're just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
It has to be real. Think about it when someone gives you a compliment that's super generic or just feels forced.
Yeah.
It doesn't really land, does it?
No, it's like those, what are those little sticky notes? You're awesome.
Right. It's a nice thought, but
yeah.
A genuine compliment, it's specific. It shows that you actually notice something about the person. Instead of just saying, great job, that presentation you gave was so engaging. I love how you use those visuals.
Yeah.
Be specific.
Okay, yeah. I'm writing this down. Specific and genuine, of course. Okay, so this next principle, I might need to get this tattooed on my hand. Avoid arguments.
Yeah.
Because that's hard, right?
It's so hard.
Especially if you're passionate about something.
Yeah.
But he's not saying be a pushover or anything, right? It's about choosing your battles.
Exactly. Ask yourself, is it more important to be right, or is it more important to preserve this relationship?
Ooh, good question. Sometimes letting go of that need to win an argument.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the win,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Carnegie actually tells this funny story about a dinner party he went to.
Oh, yeah.
And there was this one guy who was just on a tear, ranting and raving about something.
I know the type.
And instead of arguing with him, Carnegie found this tiny point of agreement.
Yeah.
and just kind of gently steered the conversation in a more, positive direction.
That's like next level skill right there.
It is. But it highlights another important point, show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, you're wrong.
Oh, I've definitely been guilty of that one.
Yeah.
But, when you put it like that, it does make sense, right? Even if you completely disagree, there's always a way to, express your own view without making the other person feel, I don't know.
Small.
Yeah, small. Like you're not respecting them.
Exactly. It goes back to making people feel important and heard, which is so crucial. Okay, ready to tackle part 3. This is where things get strategic.
Oh, I love a good strategy session. Lay it on me. Part 3, huh? How to win people to your way of thinking. Okay, this is getting good.
Right. This is where it feels like, I don't know, you could go wrong pretty easily if you're not careful. Carnegie talks about this idea of making people feel like it was their idea all along.
Oh, yeah.
Which, on the surface, it feels a little, I don't know.
Yeah, a little manipulative maybe.
Yeah, how do you do that ethically?
Right, because I'm all for a collaborative brainstorm, But
Yeah.
I don't want people to feel like I trick them into something.
Exactly. And that's not what he's advocating for at all. It's more about subtle influence, not trickery. Think of it like planting seeds, asking guiding questions.
Yeah.
Leading someone to a conclusion in a way that makes them feel that sense of ownership.
So you're kind of on the same side, working towards a common goal, not trying to win them over to your side or something.
Exactly. And remember that whole thing we were talking about with being genuinely interested in the other person?
Yeah.
That comes into play big time here, because when you really understand their perspective, their values, you can frame your ideas in a way that just clicks for them.
It's less about being manipulative and more about just being a good communicator, I guess.
Totally. Okay, you ready for a principle that's so simple but so hard to actually do?
Hit me.
If you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. My instinct is always to defend myself even when I know I messed up.
Totally. It's so hard.
It takes a lot to push past that.
It does. But when you do, admitting your mistakes is so powerful. It builds trust. It shows humility. It shows you're not afraid to be vulnerable.
It's like they say, the cover-up is worse than the crime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Owning your mistakes actually makes people more forgiving, and more open to hearing what you have to say.
It's almost like it disarms people, right? Because no one trusts someone who can't admit when they're wrong.
Absolutely. It's about building bridges, not walls. So, okay, we're in the home stretch now. We're moving into the leadership section, which, Carnegie argues that this stuff applies to all of us, not just CEOs and world leaders.
Because we all have influence in different ways, right?
Exactly. And leadership is about influence. And we all influence people in our daily lives, whether we realize it or not.
So true. And I thought it was interesting how this section is packed with familiar stuff. We've got praise, indirect criticism, letting people save face. It's everything we've been talking about just kind of comes together here.
It's all connected. Because effective leadership, it really boils down to leading with empathy and respect. That's what makes people want to follow you, to get on board with your vision.
That's true. Okay, so this last principle, this one is interesting. Throw down a challenge. What did he mean by that?
It's about tapping into people's intrinsic motivation. People, they want to rise to the occasion. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. So instead of just telling someone what to do, you're challenging them to step up and own it.
Oh, I like that. Inspire them. Don't just instruct them.
Exactly. Give them a challenge that makes them excited to contribute and watch them thrive.
So good. Man, this book, there's so much to unpack here. As we kind of wrap up our deep dives into how to win friends and influence people, it's is it really this simple?
I think it's not about tricks or shortcuts. It really comes down to human connection. Carnegie gave us this amazing framework, this set of tools.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to use them with integrity and, authenticity.
So well said. And that's a challenge worth accepting, right? So as you're going about your day, think about the principles we talked about. What really resonated with you? What's one small shift you can make, one tool you can try to create those genuine positive connections? Something to think about as we wrap up this deep dive. Until next time.